Hey everyone, have you ever played Little Fighter or heard of the game? This game was truly a gem of the past, and I remember sinking countless hours in it with friends. My friends and I would sit in front of that old monstrosity of a computer, running on Windows 2000, all huddled up in one chair, two to four pair of hands on the keyboard, button mashing the ever living crap out of it. Ah, such fun times. I remember downloading the game from a CD that I got from this computer/gaming magazine one day, and boy oh boy, did I have the time of my life. When I wasn't playing against or with friends, I would play by myself. Wait, that kinda sounded sus, but what I meant is that I would use my imagination and creativity while playing the game. I was still an elementary student when I first played the game, and I was a huge nerd for RPGs back then, and still am to this day. But if you ever played the game, you would already know that Little Fighter didn't really have much of a story. Well, I think so anyway. Let me Google that up real quick. Well, a quick search showed me no results on it. To be honest, I didn't really try my best searching it up, but let's just say there was no story. Funny enough, there is a story mode that progresses through 5 different stages. Here, I would create my own fantasy story in my head. I would create elaborate background stories for each of the heroes and have them go on a mission to kill the evil king. A cliche trope of the past novels and games, but it was one that really clicked with me back then. There was John, the dark magician, that was studying under the evil king's reign, studying the dark arts and arcane magic. He decided to flee from the evil empire when he realized that he wasn't originally from there and that the evil king burnt his village down and took him in when he was but just a baby. Then there was Deep, a master swordsman, and Henry, an archer of outstanding caliber. These two friends had their village ransacked and pillaged by bandits while they were out on a hunting trip. By the time they got back to the village, the only thing that was waiting for them was not their family and friends, but a wreck of smoldering ash and fire. Together, they decided to relentlessly hunt down the culprits and have their revenge. Freeze and Firen, both possessing the power of ice and fire respectively, came from rival tribes, but decided to put an end to their differences when the evil king announced his plans for world domination. They decided to put their contest of whether fire or ice was stronger on hold, as they banded together to first take out the bigger threat. After all, an enemy of an enemy is a friend. Together, when on death's door, they can combine and transform into Furzin, the ultimate champion of both elements. Next up was the three musketeers of Little Fighter: Davis, the punching martial artist, Dennis, the kicking menace, and Woody, the leader of the trio. Well, that's how I felt so anyway. These ragtag group of students would easily mop the floor when it came to school fights, and each being able to produce energy blasts to take down the competition. Rudolf the ninja was one of the most OP characters in the game. He could literally turn invisible and also clone himself. Not only that, he would be able to transform into his opponent, sort of like a Ditto. The coolest part of his kit was that he could make copies of himself, and then transform into his opponent and have a little army of his own. There was a trick where you could sustain yourself with a beer bottle to replenish the mana and constantly pump out clones and be invisible. Had to break character there a little bit, but let's get back to the narrative, shall we? Louis, the Night King, was thrown out of his castle by the evil king and had all his followers and kingdom betray him. Left with nothing but just his armor and determination, he set about the kingdom finding trustworthy allies. Whenever he is in a pinch, he rips off his armor and holds in his hand the legendary spear, able to mow through enemies with kinetic blasts and his prowess over the spear. Lastly, there was the evil king himself, Julian, a demon from the other dimension. Appearing out of nowhere, he devastated the lands and took the lives of many. He had weaker clone versions of himself, known as Justins, that were not as strong but still a formidable foe. Using his interdimensional powers, he was also able to bring forth copies of the heroes of the land and able to stand firm, ruling the lands with an evil iron fist. Of course, none of this lore actually exists, I just made it all up. But it was this kind of ambiguity that led my little child brain to draw lines of stories where there was none, to make sense of the unknown and to connect dots that actually weren't there. If there was a small trinkle of something, I would turn that something into something, if that makes any sense. Oh, by the way, there were more characters like Bat, the Bandits, the Hunters, Jack, Jan, Mark, Monk, Sorcerer, Knight, and Template. But I felt like these characters were more canon fodder than really anything. Well, maybe except Bat, he was pretty cool. The idea behind template was also pretty cool as well, as he was there to serve as a template for your own character. It was a shame that he had no powers though. I'm pretty sure you could code in your own powers and abilities, but back then I could neither draw nor code. Funnily enough, that still hasn't changed till this day. While snooping around to once again familiarize myself with Little Fighter and to relive those childhood memories, I came across some dank mods, or fan made Little Fighter. And I'm not gonna lie, it was Little Fighter on steroids. There were more characters to play from, mostly all fan made, and the existing characters had not just powers but like superpowers. They would fly across the screen and shoot beams of energy that would completely fill up the map and pretty much obliterate any foe they would come in contact with. I guess the philosophy here is if everyone is OP, then truly no one is OP, right? I decided to first try Little Fighter 5 Turbo, and I had no idea what was going on. Abilities were flying everywhere, and the animations were not matching up due to some kind of error. The characters could only face right and never could look left, even when running, which I thought was pretty funny. Hell, there was even a Pikachu looking ripoff in the mix as well. He was also super OP. Since I wanted to play something a little more cohesive and that made sense, I decided to try Naruto and the Dragon Ball mods as well. The Naruto Little Fighter one was really well made and boasted a huge range of characters. It even had Naruto and Sasuke of all the different age stages, which I found quite nifty. It was a little buggy however, as it would crash every now and then, but I definitely think it was worth it as the quality of this was just top notch. The Dragon Ball fighters seemed to be recently made as well, as it had characters from recent times, such as, spoiler alert, Hit, Black Goku, and the god forms of Vegeta and Goku. I found this to be a little lackluster as the art wasn't that great and the skills seemed to be very repetitive for most of the characters. It was still a good time sink though. However, I couldn't get past the first stage in story mode as it just didn't seem to progress. All in all, after checking out the main game and a couple of mods, it really made me reminisce the past. But was it as good as I remembered it? Yes and no. It still was a fun beat 'em up game for sure, but it didn't really feel the same as when I played it way back. It didn't have that nostalgic feeling, as I was missing the friends that played it with me at the same time. And I think the clunky old keyboard and that Windows 2000 boot up sound was missing as well. I realized that it wasn't just the game itself, but the people that I played it with. The experience of all being in one room, huddled up in one chair, all laser focused on the block monitor, and having so many hands on the keyboard that the keys just wouldn't register. That. It was missing that. And it would be impossible to replicate now. Hell, even if I played this game with friends over the net, it still wouldn't feel the same. How about you? Did you feel nostalgic while watching this video? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And also let me know what other game makes you take a trip down memory lane. And let me know if there's any other old or indie game you would like me to cover. This is Requiem of IndieMasters signing out. Have a great day.